Please elaborate the difference between the goal and the purpose.
The, the goal is where we have to reach. The purpose is to go in the right direction so that at least we are nearer the goal. Say, for example, if one has to go from uh, Delhi to Chennai, the train will first go to Agra and then to Bhopal. So, going from Delhi up to Agra is addressing only the purpose. The destination will be reached only in Chennai. But at least when we have reached Agra or Bhopal, we are nearer Chennai. Why that is important is because the spiritual philosophy on the basis of which we are talking is essentially Vedanta. Sri Aurobindo's philosophy is also one of the, you can say, forms of Vedanta, integral Vedanta. Now, in Vedanta, one of the basic things is rebirth, which means that the journey of the soul is not complete in one life. We all have to keep coming back again and again for this journey to be completed. We might have started as animals. The first time we get a human birth on this earth is itself a great privilege. And after that, we can walk this path consciously. Till then, our evolution was spontaneous through a natural process. Animals do not aim at spiritual growth. Their life revolves basically around feeding and breeding. But human being is the first creature who is not satisfied with feeding and breeding and other material aspects of life. He starts looking for something more, starts looking for something beyond. That is a characteristic human aspiration. And in the beginning, when he is the first time he's born as a human being, he's not very conscious of the true purpose of life. He lives more like an animal than as a human being. And therefore it is only by accident that he may, through trial and error, end up in his life with the soul sufficiently evolved or the individual sufficiently evolved to be at a little higher level of consciousness than he arrived at, that he has taken through trial and error a few steps towards the goal. So he has addressed the purpose of life not very consciously. But then at the end of life, when this soul departs, it decides to come back after a stay in wherever in the other world it is, to this world again. And then it picks up from the place where it left off in the previous life. So therefore it may take several lives before the person reaches a point where he becomes even conscious of the process and understands that, well, this is the true purpose of life and it is in this way that I can address it. So he ends up choosing one of the spiritual paths which will take him towards the goal. So now he starts doing it consciously, so the journey becomes a little faster. But in each of these lives, he is actually addressing the purpose of life. It is only when he arrives so evolved on earth as a result of all the homework that he put in the previous lives that now he is very near the goal. Now only a few finishing strokes are needed. And when he has accomplished those finishing strokes, all the time, of course, people thought that he is different from the others. But then now that he has put in those finishing strokes, he is a self-realized soul. He has sort of realized what his true self is. He has become one with himself, one with that, and now he is constantly aware of it, and his life can be organized around this. But this has happened after several lives. And that is why for most of us it is the purpose that is more important than the goal, because that is what we will end up doing in this life. But if we are doing it consciously, as most of those who are seeing it would be, because that is what has made you sort of feel that this is the type of course that we should be doing. So you are doing it, you will be probably doing it consciously. You can take more steps, reach nearer, and maybe if some of you have that courage and the previous work behind, maybe you will reach the goal itself in this life. But we don't have to be obsessed with the goal, because being obsessed with the goal doesn't make us any nearer the goal. Actually, it outdistances the goal. That is another interesting that happens. So we have to do what we have to be doing. The divine grace will help us further, and we will make our progress will be taken care of by the divine. So we leave the progress, that is how much movement we make towards the goal, to the divine, surrender that to the divine, leave that to its care, and just do our bit. So that is why for all practical purposes it is the purpose which is more important than the goal. And this idea of rebirth, which some of you seeing it may not agree with, Sri Aurobindo sort of gives a very rational explanation for it for those who decide to go by reason. In the Life Divine, he says that if the ultimate purpose of human existence is to fulfill that aspiration which is hidden somewhere in every human being, that is to go beyond the surface, beyond what is obvious, beyond the basic needs of feeding and breeding. If that is the purpose of life, and the final goal while addressing that purpose cannot be reached in one lifetime, then rebirth becomes a rational necessity for reaching the goal. So, because the journey is not of much use unless we reach the goal, and if the goal cannot be reached in one lifetime, rebirth becomes a rational necessity.
I think I got some idea, but not absolute clarity so far. Maybe one can say the goal of the current life could be the purpose of this life. Eventual goal could cut across different lives.
Yes.